Dear students, I welcome you again to my online class. Hope you are safe and sound. I am Mohammad Mamun Sardar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Government BL College, Khulna. In today's class, we will talk about active and passive voice. We will discuss in detail active and passive voice rules, followed by examples, along with sample questions for examinations. Compare the following sentences. The guards opened the door. The door was opened by the guards. It seems that these two sentences express the same meaning. But in sentence 1, the form of verb shows that the person denoted by the subject does something. The guards, the persons denoted by the subject, does something here. Here the verb opened is said to be in the active voice. In sentence 2, the form of the verb shows that something is done to the thing denoted by the subject. Something is done to the door, the thing denoted by the subject. Here the verb opened is said to be in the passive voice. In active voice, a sentence emphasizes subject performing an action, while in passive voice, sentence emphasizes the action or the object of the sentence. Here we have definition of voice. Voice is that form of a verb which shows whether what is denoted by the subject does something or has something done to it. Voice is of two types, active voice and passive voice. Look at the definition of the active voice. A verb is in the active voice when its form shows that the person or thing denoted by the subject does something, or in other words, is the doer of the action. Look at the example below. The boy reads a novel. This is an example of active voice. The active voice is so called because the person denoted by the subject acts. Passive voice. A verb is in the passive voice when its form shows that something is done to the person or thing denoted by the subject. Look at the example. A novel is read by the boy. The passive voice is so called because the person or thing denoted by the subject is not active but passive, that is, suffers or receives some action. Here we have some examples of active and passive voice. Let's go go through these examples and try to understand the difference between active and passive voice. Active, the cat killed the mouse. Passive, the mouse was killed by the cat. Active, we compelled the enemy to surrender. Passive, the enemy was compelled to surrender by us. Active, he has written a letter. Passive, a letter has been written by him. Active, the dog is chasing the cats. Passive, the cats are being chased by the dog. Dear students, if we read the examples carefully, we can notice that the sentences in active voice are changed into passive voice following some specific rules. Let's talk about the rules. Active voice to passive voice. To know how a sentence is converted into passive voice from active voice, you need to follow certain rules. Rule 1. Object of active voice becomes the subject of passive voice. Rule 2. Auxiliary verb is used according to the tense, number, and person of the subject. Rule 3. Past participle form of the principal verb is used. Rule 4. Subject of active voice becomes the object of passive voice, and preposition by is usually used before the object. Here we have some examples of active voice and passive voice. Active, I have learned the lesson. Passive, the lesson has been learned by me. Active, they are eating sweets. Passive, sweets are being eaten by them. Active, all his pupils like him. Passive, he is liked by all his pupils. It is noticed that when the verb is changed from active voice to passive voice, the object of the transitive verb in the active voice becomes the subject of the verb in the passive voice. Since the object of the verb in the active voice becomes the subject of the passive form, it follows that only transitive verbs can be used in the passive voice, because an intransitive verb has no subject. Intransitive verb has no object. Dear students, in my next class, I will discuss in detail about some important rules of voice change. Till then, stay home and stay safe for your safety and for the safety of your family and community from COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you all.